Wait, what? Migratory patterns of werewolves? What the heck? Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. And comment below as I'm going through the story. Also, please consider becoming a channel member to support Cosmic Road to allow me to spend more time on these channels and make these videos as good as I can make them, as good as you deserve. See the first line in the description below. Or heck, I'm a novelist. I write fantasy and science fiction books. You can simply support the channel by buying one of my books. There's a couple right there. So go to the link in the description below, my Amazon page. Check it out. Okay, this is a really interesting story. I've been reading the book The Hunt for the Skinwalker by George Knapp and James Latatsky and Colm Kelleher. You know, the latter two were responsible for running OSAP and Bass, at Skinwalker Ranch back in the day. And, they know as much about Skinwalker Ranch as anybody and the phenomena that goes on there. And, of course, George Knapp has been instrumental in the whole thing, and he's been in on the ground floor of this thing forever. And it has been a fascinating read. I encourage everybody that's interested to go out and check out the book, The Skinwalkers at the Pentagon is the name of the book. And a truly remarkable book that traces the Pentagon programs, OSAP and Bass, and it begins even before that with the NIDS especially. And, it just traces the evolution of the government's involvement in UFOs and U.A.P. since that time. Basically, the publicly known UFO programs began at Skinwalker Ranch and studying the phenomena there. Anyway, I've made a couple of other videos about various aspects of the book because it is so meaty and rich, and there is so much there to remark upon. And so I've made a couple of other videos about it, and I wanted to make one today about a really interesting section. It was, one of the phenomena associated with the ranch is dogmen and werewolves. The giant wolves under, intelligent control, sometimes that turn into two-legged forms. Sometimes these things will actually follow people back home. Maybe not physically, not like trailing you in your car, but they seem to be part of the hitchhiker phenomenon. Axelrod in the book, as he's called, who is almost certainly Jay Stratton, his whole family was haunted, if you will, by werewolves, or at least by one in particular werewolf. They had various hitchhiker effects from the ranch at their home and terrorized the family, and it actually leached out into what George Knapp, who I believe probably wrote the bulk of the book because he's the writer. George, if that's who wrote it, refers to it as an infectious model of, the infectious model of the hitchhiker effect. So, in other words, this paranormal stuff, can ripple out and infect people. And it was. It was infecting coworkers and even jumping people to not directly affect somebody that was touched by the family, but was actually jumping a person and then affecting a person that middle person knew. Very, very crazy stuff. The hitchhiker phenomenon is really bizarre. But the idea that Jay Stratton and his family repeatedly saw this werewolf being outside their home, glaring at them malevolently, and it was a very fearsome specter. It was really a revelation to me, a shock to me, that you could be haunted by a werewolf. That was insane. I had never heard that before. And for that to occur to Jay Stratton, who led the U.A.P. task force until other possibly lesser people took over. And Jay Stratton has been, involved in all this stuff from the beginning. Some high profile person like that, a very important person in the overall, U.F.O, movement, if you will, could be haunted by a werewolf. I mean, this isn't some fringy person. This is a real, top level fella. And for it to affect his whole family and then to spread out from them was crazy. Anyway, so there's a bunch of those examples of this werewolf, the Skinwalker, whatever it is. Is it the Skinwalker? I mean, is it the Skinwalker? Is there an actual entity that is a Skinwalker that is doing this sort of thing? Is this an alien? Is this a trick of the mind? Some sort of consciousness projection? Some placeholder memory? See, that's where I was leaning, because there's other research to indicate that the beings, when they abduct you, will often put some sort of image in front of you to distract your mind while they abduct you. And it apparently just makes the process of abducting you either. You might see some weird, crazy, whatever it is, an owl or whatever, or wolf. But it might actually, who knows, but some of these examples might be the being putting this image in your head to distract you while they come and scoop you up. That's where I had been heading in my research, and in my thinking on this is that that was probably what was going on with the Jay Stratton and his family. Is they had made some impression on the beings, and the beings had decided to start abducting them, and they were putting these werewolves out there, these images of werewolves out there to focus their mind. Meanwhile, they were probably being abducted. And I even watched a remote viewing session by some really good remote viewers that seemed to indicate that the hitchhiker effect was often tied in with abductions. That was, and they specifically looked at Jay Stratton and his family. So that's what I had been thinking, but then I get to another section in this book. Colm Kelleher and James Latasky and his team, they're investigating not just Skinwalker Ranch, but they broaden their horizons, and they are actually looking at other locations, I think within a 50-mile radius of the ranch. And they are coming across the dogmen or the wolfmen, whatever they are. They usually seem to be wolves or wolf-like, and werewolves, whatever you want to call them. To me, they're werewolves because I love werewolves. They're like one of my favorite monsters. Werewolves are just so cool. Specifically, the two-legged wolf-like kind. Not the wolfmen. Like in Teen Wolf or in the Wolfman. But like the Howling. I love the Howling werewolves. Or if you've ever seen that old TV show Werewolf from the 80s, awesome werewolf. Anyway, I love that kind of werewolf. I would not want to see one. That would freak me the fuck out. So, it's interesting to know that werewolves exist. I guess. Again, I don't want to see one. I am not inviting one anywhere near me. The investigators at Skinwalker Ranch, Bass, and the program that actually looked into this stuff was Bass. Now, there's some confusion about OSAP and ATIP and Bass. Well, OSAP was simply the government contract, but the actual program and the company, specifically the Bigelow company that was actually doing the operations was Bass. So the correct way to say it, according to the book, is that it was the Bass team investigating this stuff. under the, OSAP charter, I guess. Yeah, so they were looking at stuff outside of the ranch, and they kept on coming across people finding or seeing the werewolf, the Skinwalker. And they encountered it so much, it seems like they were able to track the direction of these beings. And the author of the book, authors, I'm just going to say George. George Knapp refers to it as the migratory patterns of these beings, of these dogmen, of these werewolves. He says they were able to track the migratory habits of werewolves. Yeah, so sadly, George and the other authors don't go into any detail about that. They just drop that huge bomb. Yeah, we track the migratory habits of werewolves. Yeah, okay, it was a Tuesday, that was just another Tuesday. Moving on to the next topic. And never mentioned it again. Didn't give any details, never mentioned it again. I can't find any more information about that. If any of you know anything about what, the authors were referring to, and you can lead me to some information about that. And I'm not talking about isolated incidents of dogmen. I've seen those. But, specifically the migratory habits of these beings. I would be really, really, really interested to learn more about that. George just puts it out there like that. We had so many sightings of these beings that we were able to track their migratory habits, is basically what he said. So, he didn't say what that meant. He didn't say what those migratory habits were, what direction they were going, what motives they had. But one thing does seem to be clear. I think there's still some room for debate. But these might actually be beings, not just screen holder memories to distract you during an abduction or some hitchhiker thing where it's leeching off of your fear and trying to generate fear by, projecting this image. So these seem to actually be beings. Like, is there a race of werewolves, or is this a clan of skinwalkers possibly on the move? Who knows? I don't know. If you know, please let me know, because this is super fascinating to me. I love horror movies. I write novels, and some of those are horror novels. Almost all of them have elements of horror in them. Even the science fiction and fantasy have some elements of horror in them. So, I've seen like every B movie known to man. Super fascinated by all this stuff. I never thought werewolves were a thing in the waking world. Again, I don't want to meet one. This is not an invitation. Stay home. Anyway, I wanted to bring this to your attention, guys. This is a crazy story. If you want to know more, or about the whole thing, check out the book Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Anyway, let me know what you think about this craziness in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Please smash the subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. Please join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. And please, if you enjoy these videos, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. See the first line in the description below, and there's 2 tiers of membership to receive exclusive access and videos. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road.